Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've made one of these movie reviews. The last one, I think, was The Beekeeper that came out all the way back in January. There just hasn't been a lot of movies I've wanted to see. I actually thought about seeing Madam Web in the theater out of morbid curiosity, but after hearing the reviews, I decided that it's even worse than I would have thought of. So if I'm gonna see that, I'm probably gonna watch it on streaming. Funny thing is though, one of my friends went to see it, and he enjoyed it only because of how bad it was. And one of the things that kind of shaped me not seeing this in a theater, I'm probably just gonna watch it when it goes streaming onto Hulu or whatever, is I kid you not, he told me that Sony was just so uninspired by this movie. It was bad on all fronts. Not a single thing was good about it. But the thing that I thought was hilarious was that he told me that that the opening logos that I do for my short films, specifically the latest one I did, Halloween Snowed In, looked like I put more effort into making it look unique than the title logo for Madam Web. Which, honestly, I'm gonna wear that like a badge of honor, that I put more effort in than a multi-million-dollar company. But anyway, the movie that I ended up seeing tonight after a couple months was Imaginary. And I went into, I didn't go into this movie thinking that it was gonna be a masterpiece in horror. I didn't expect to like it as much as movies like A Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, even some of the other Blumhouse movies such as the Halloween reboots. But I will say that I actually did like this movie quite a bit. I did hear some reviews that that wasn't all that good, but like I said, I lowered my expectations a little bit because first of all, it's Blumhouse, and second of all, the premise kind of intrigued me because it was essentially about this child having an imaginary friend, but the twist is that the imaginary friend is this sinister demonic entity. And the premise alone kind of reminded me of the original Child's Play, where Andy was playing with Chucky, and he was doing things that Chucky wanted him to do, such as sitting him in front of a TV, taking a train to Chucky's old associate's house or whatever, and basically he was getting Andy in trouble, but no one would believe him that it was Chucky making him do those things, right? And even in, I believe, the original draft of Child's Play, the original one that Don Mancini wrote, he originally didn't want Chucky to be voodoo based, of the soul of Charles Lee Ray. He wanted Chucky to be basically a manifestation of Andy's rage, right? And that's kind of what I got from the trailer. I don't exactly consider this a spoiler, but that it wasn't exactly like that in the final film, but I still enjoyed it quite a bit. But the story, as I said, is about how this little girl named Alice, who befriends this stuffed animal bear named Chauncey. And at first, it seems just innocent, fun, kiddie games that they're playing, until things take a dark turn where the imaginary friend wants Alice to basically start harming herself. And that's when her stepmother, Jessica, she starts to think that something is wrong, and secrets are revealed about her own past and her own imaginary friend. And basically, she has to find a way to like stop the imaginary friend from essentially taking the girl's soul forever. And honestly, that got me hooked. Like within pretty much the first half hour. The cast was okay. I mean, I'll be honest. Like, there's not a single cast member that I actually recognize in this film. Like, I even looked up the cast after watching the film, and there wasn't a single name that I recognized. But I think that I honestly believe that like everyone did their job okay. The child actress who played Alice was all right. At times, I thought her acting was a little bit weird and jarring, but then again, that's kind of how I'd expect a kid to act sometimes, where like one minute she's sad, the other minute like she's just happy-go-lucky, that kind of thing. The stepmother is all right. As in the main actress, like she's pretty good. I thought she played her part really well, especially when she's like realizing who and what Chauncey is. The little girl, Alice's older sister Taylor, is all right. She kind of plays like a stereotypical like angsty teen kind of, and I think she plays her part well. I honestly thought that the actress was in the TV show Shameless, but when I looked up her name on IMDb, like I didn't find any credits there, so there's another actress that I don't recognize. And then the rest of the cast rounded out as the father of the two girls. He was okay. They didn't really give him much to do though, and he kind of just got written out a little bit later in the film. Taylor's would-be boyfriend, like he doesn't have too much to do either. Unfortunately, he's like basically a stereotypical like douchey teen, who if he stayed in the movie a little bit longer, he probably would have started irritating me a little bit. And then this old lady who basically like knows all about the whole imaginary friends thing, which they don't reveal her role until like much later in the story, but like I still think it's done all right. Like it doesn't feel like exposition heavy. I just felt like her part was sort of was like necessary to it. There's one thing that I am going to touch on a little bit later, though. But moving on from the casting, like I said in the story, I thought was all right. The music was pretty good. There's basically two sides of the soundtrack to this. Like one that's kind of like playful, like basically the main theme of this, where you hear it every time Alice like pulls the drawstring on Chauncey's back. And it plays this like really catchy tune that I actually started humming in the theater. And then there's this other like sort of more like darker instrumental music that actually sounded pretty cool and badass for the film, especially in the more tense scenes. For a PG-13 horror film, there were actually some pretty good tense moments. There wasn't a lot of violence in there, but like that, I mean, that's okay. And when I saw it was rated PG-13, I didn't expect too much of it. And even then, it still surprised me in how far they went at times. The CGI was actually pretty good. Like, there's those scenes in the trailers where it looks like Alice or whoever is like painting this doorway and it starts shimmering blue. That leads to basically like their version of basically Imagination Land. And like it looks pretty cool. I do kind of wish that they that they stayed in there a little bit longer, like to really explore all the different like possibilities in there. And who knows, maybe there might be a sequel that could go back to that. Um, the the monster itself, like Chauncey Bear, I think he was utilized really well. Like, I mean, for one, when he's like as the stuffed animal, and like even those scenes where he's in the background and he's like slowly tilting his head or like just moving on his own is pretty creepy. Or like the monstrous form that he takes, especially in like the whole Imagination Land sequence, or in that scene in the trailer where the stuffed bear like turns into that monstrous beast and attacks Taylor's boyfriend. Which again, I'll get back to that in a minute. I thought it looked really good. I don't know if it was CGI or just a suit, or if it was a blend of the two, but it actually looked pretty menacing. And segueing into that, with the lighting of this film, the lighting was done really great, especially the scenes in the dark, where that's where the bear is utilized the most. Where I feel like if it was like just a broad daylight scene, like it would look obviously fake or whatever, but Blumhouse was smart and kept the like monster in the dark, and he looked really cool. Well, look, no, he looked like he could actually like he looked like he could actually mess people up, which he does later on in the movie. But aside from that, like going back to the CGI, like the CGI is I thought was done pretty well. Like even on the minor characters, such as this one like half human, half spider demon that appears like in the first few minutes of the film. That looks pretty cool. In fact, I actually think it looks even better than Chauncey Bear, and I feel like I honestly kind of wish that they do another movie that just focuses on that, because that's a really cool character design. But going back to Chauncey in particular, so Chauncey isn't like the only form of like the big evil entity thing, which this is a bit of a nitpick, but like the evil demonic entity thing, the imaginary friend, basically has sort of like three forms. Like the main one is Chauncey Bear, another one is that spider demon at the very beginning, and then there's his also like I guess true form that you see glimpses of throughout the film, and like also in the trailers, where he appears as like this sort of tall person with like these huge eyes and pretty much no mouth. And if I were to make a comparison, it would look sort of like if anyone has seen the movie Sinister, like the main evil entity of that film, like Bagul, he kind of looks like that but without hair. Or Slender Man, but with huge black eyes. But also like this is the one that it actually looks like the most to me, is those aliens from Doctor Who, where if you look away from them, you instantly forget what they are. I can't remember kind of the names of those, because like I haven't actually watched Doctor Who. And the first episode that they were in, that was like the most exposure I got to the show. But out of all the forms that the demon thing takes, I feel like that one was honestly like the least inspiring, unfortunately. But again, that's just a nitpick of mine. Another nitpick that I had was that, well, actually two others that kind of go hand in hand, is that there are some jump scares. I mean, it's a horror movie, but I feel like they didn't have to rely on so many of them. Like, there's a lot of like slow burn scares, or like scares that kind of happen naturally, but they also rely on a lot of jump scares in this film. Like that scene in the trailer where Chauncey Bear like turns into that huge monstrous beast and attacks Taylor's boyfriend. Like that's basically a jump scare because nothing happens to him. He just gets scared and falls down, and like that's it. And honestly, I kind of wish that the bear kind of killed him, because like right before that happens, like I've already said that his character is basically like a stereotypical like douchey teenager. But going further than that, like let's just say that it's implied that he tries to do something that's like really disgusting and awful. And I mean, the bear should have just killed him. Like, let's just to be clear. But no, all he does is just scare the guy, and he's basically written out of the film after that. And then like later on in the film, like there's a plot twist involving like the old lady in the trailers, which I feel like they didn't really it's not completely out of nowhere, but it's still a little bit jarring. Like there's enough breadcrumbs there where you can kind of see where they were going with that, but I still feel like they should have added a little bit more to it to make that twist a little bit more believable. And what follows after that is supposed to be a tense moment, but like I found it just too comedic, and I started cracking up in the theater. So, but aside from that, like I enjoyed this film a lot more than I thought I would. And honestly, like now that I'm done like just gushing over this film. Oh, and one more thing, actually, one last thing that I want to compliment this film on. I do like some things that seem like callbacks, even if they're unintentional, such as like I said, the whole premise of Imaginary reminds me of Child's Play. The whole thing about like Imagination Land and everything, and like imagination has power. For some reason, that reminded me of like Nightmare on Elm Street: The Dream Warriors, especially towards the end when all the kids like basically had got their own dream powers. And like even towards the end, and like this was also in the trailers, where Alice's sister Taylor, she turns on this light and she sees like Alice, but she looks all decrepit with the white eyes. I don't know if this was intentional, but it looked like it. But the kid looked almost exactly like the original Deadites from the first Evil Dead movie, specifically Cheryl, with like her like decrepit gray face, parts just rotting off, like the dead white eyes. Like I just thought that it just reminded me of Evil Dead. Again, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but the makeup on that was great, if it was makeup. But either way, that's basically the end of my that's the end of like me just praising this film, basically, because the next thing that I'm gonna say still related to this film, but on my drive home from the theater, like I basically kind of came to a realization that like this is what Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey should have been, right? Where Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey came out, I think it was either last year or 2 years ago, and I mean, I was entertained by it, but I know that it wasn't a good movie at all. And one of the things that a bunch of people brought up in like other movie reviews that I saw on YouTube was that this was basically a generic slasher. That was just a knockoff of all these other films. except the catch was that like they were wearing like pig and bear masks, which true, but I but I think what they should have done is they should have done this whole the route that Imaginary did, where where Christopher Robin has like these imaginary friends of Winnie the Pooh, Piglet, Owl, Eeyore, Rabbit, all those guys. And once he grows up, he leaves them, kind of like the Disney movie Christopher Robin. But so as I was saying, Disney's Christopher Robin starts off where Christopher Robin is playing with like Pooh, Tigger, Piglet, everyone, and he and because of his father dying, he basically has to grow up really fast, and he leaves his friends. Now, instead of in Christopher Robin, where his friends actually wait for him, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey could have been where, because of Christopher Robin leaving, like the stuffed animals basically become bitter and turn evil, and now want to take Christopher Robin's kid away from him, right? But instead, what Blood and Honey did was they had Pooh and Piglet become basically like hillbillies, and they killed Christopher Robin's wife, tortured Christopher Robin, and then they go after a bunch of college girls that have nothing to do with Winnie the Pooh at all. And I don't know. I feel like Imaginary is what they should have done. And honestly, if the production company that made Blood and Honey actually did that, not only would it probably have been better, but I feel like that actually would have carved out a piece of their budget, because all they have to use is just a stuffed bear, basically. But instead, they went the generic slasher movie route, which I like slashers, but they went the generic slasher route for Pooh and Piglet. But speaking of, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 is supposed to come out later this month, which, ironic, that's now 2 years where we have had 2 Killer Bear movies. Because back when the first Blood and Honey movie came out, Cocaine Bear came out, I think, a week later. So, I don't know. I'm probably still going to see that one. The trailer actually made it look a little bit better than the first. I mean, I was still entertained by the first one, and I'm probably still going to see the second one. But I'm going to definitely temper my expectations. And to finish this whole review up, definitely temper your expectations for this film. Like, it's not groundbreaking or anything. It's not like Child's Play or Megan levels of great horror films, but I still think it's still a solid horror flick. But that's it for me, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Hopefully it won't be 2 months later. Bye, everyone.